Thomas here with Moch Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today we are building something from a game that I surprisingly have not built from yet. This game's been out for a little over 10 years now and has been at the top of the playing list on many platforms, and I've thought, why not? Today we're going to make something from Minecraft. No, I'm not just going to put a box on my head and paint it green. Let's build something a little bit more complicated than that. I saw somebody recently on a YouTube channel open up a box that had a creeper statue in it, and it was like it was dissected halfway down the middle of it so that you could see the bones and the TNT that's on the inside of it. And I thought that was kind of a cool concept, so I want to make one.
Hi, how are you?
Today we are going to build the anatomy of a creeper. Let's get to building. There are a lot of pieces to this build, but they're relatively simple. Basically, I just divided it up into smaller parts that will be glued together at the end. I use mostly 10mm EVA for this build. Thought I would start with the hardest part first. This is the leg assembly. You can make it a lot easier by making cube legs, but of course I want to make it hard for myself, so I make a little more stylized version. The blue lines on the template are a 45-degree inward cut, and these make the seam lines minimal. Here is the body half. This is pretty much just a tall trapezoid. If you didn't want to make him divided in half, like part skeleton, part intact, you could just double up the skinny strips you see here and it would make the full-size body. Now I am putting together the intact side of the head. Like I said, there are a lot of parts, but it doesn't get much simpler than just making cubes. The skull half has two outward 45-degree angle cuts that are highlighted yellow. I'm going to put those together first and then attach it to the skull side and then basically just work my way around the edge. There is a flat side on all of those parts because it's the side that glues to the intact part of the head. For assembly of all the parts we made, start by marking off where you want them to go. You're making an alignment so that you can put glue down. Using a silver Sharpie, I put them basically where I want them to go, glue up those areas with contact cement, and then attach them permanently together once the glue has set. For the bone side, I cut the pelvic area out of some 24mm EVA foam and then built off of this base. To attach the bone feet, I used some 24mm EVA square dowels I got from TNT Cosplay Supply online and made my leg bones. I cut an angle that would make them fall within the intact legs, so you'll see me kind of looking at the legs next to them to get a reference as to how they should be aligned. The TNT box just sits on the pelvic base and consists of 3 pieces. Then using that same 24mm EVA square dowels, I made the spine. And to make the vertebrae for the spine, I just laid some little strips of 4mm EVA over the top of it. Three coats of white Plasti Dip. Didn't realize till after I spray painted the intact side green that I forgot the bottom jaw. So I added this after the fact off camera. Last is the acrylic painting. Just filled in the areas with some red paint and then colored the TNT box. I decided to go over all the edges with a black acrylic paint pen once I had everything painted to cover up all my sloppy edge work. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think he turned out pretty cool. Obviously, I took some liberties here and made it a bit more simplistic. I realized that the creeper should be a rectangle and not this chopped off trapezoid looking thing that I got going here, but I thought it just kind of gave it a little bit more interest, a little more style. And with the painting, I could have spent a lot of time mapping out all the little squares, but I was kind of in a rush, and I kind of liked the outline that I chose for the finishing part, just taking a black paint pen and going over the edges. But yeah, maybe you will try and make one of these creepers yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to cut a creeper in half without making him explode. It takes skill. Maybe you'll get some...
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. The trick is to not get too close to them or they start shaking uncontrollably and get really scared.